Hi class, it's Allegra here. Today I'm going to be walking you through creating a Picasso inspired abstract portrait. And for those of you who don't know who Pablo Picasso is, a quick summary would be that he's one of the most influential artists of the 20th century. He was a painter, a sculptor, printmaker, ceramicist. He was known for doing a lot of different periods of art. He was known for Cubism, Surrealism, Post-Impressionism, Realism. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be drawing inspiration from some of his abstract portraits and just a quick little glimpse at what some of those might look like. We've got a lot of different ones here. And so that's what we're going to be drawing our inspiration from today. And the way we're going to start is we are going to use our needle tool, our scoring tool, paintbrush, little container with water, sponge, just in case I need it. And we're gonna get started. So I'm looking at my nice slab of clay. And for those of you that don't know, I am using a low fire clay that has to be fired in a kiln, but a lot of the art supply stores offer clays that do not have to be fired in a kiln. They can be baked in your oven at home, or they can be air dry. Just as long as it's a water-based clay, these instructions will go ahead and help you. So we're going to start by just drawing an oval. It can be any shape. Like I said, this is an abstract project, so nothing has to be perfect. Anything you do when you're composing it together will look really great. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna start by sketching an oval, and then from there I'll trim it down as to what I would like. So I think I'm going with this shape. And I'm just pushing harder with my needle tool. Okay, so this is pretty much the shape of what I'm going to be doing. This is going to be my portrait. And as you see, we have a lot of scrap clay. So this is what you're going to be building your little pieces out of to go ahead and create your image. I already pre-cut some, but I'll show you kind of the shapes I did. I did an eyeball shape, just quick little sketch. You can do some eyelashes. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be however you want it. Like I said, this is an abstract piece, so it does not have to be very realistic. So I did quite a few pieces like that, but I'm going to start adhering them. For those of you that didn't watch my last video, we use a technique when we're sticking things onto a piece of clay. It's called slipping and scoring. It's extremely important. It helps hold your pieces together as if you were putting glue on a piece of paper. So I already made my little pieces that I'm going to be sticking on. So we've got little face, piece, a mouth, an eye, some eyelashes, some hair, another eye, the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick these pieces onto my portrait or face shape. So I'm going to start with this guy. Got it shaped down a little bit, so now I'm just going to fine tune the shape of it. And I had pre-cut this, so it's not going to fit perfectly, but I'm going to make it fit. Make any adjustments I need to so that it works. Okay, so I think I like that shape. I'm going to start by scoring. I'm going to place it on my clay again so that I know where I'm scoring on the clay. I'm just going to lightly trace around it with the needle tool. See, so it kind of gives me a guideline to go by. Now I'm gonna do that. And now We're going to use the paintbrush just to get some water on the piece in the areas that I scored. And this is going to create what's called slip, which is like the glue on the project. I'm gonna go over my scoring lines again, just to get it gooey. And that creates the slip, which is this wet, gluey clay right there. So now I'm going to go ahead and stick this on in the same outline that I had followed. You know what? I've got a little extra clay here, so I'm going to take this up and readjust it. And now I'm just using my fingers to bend it in the directions I want. I think this is a good look. You see we've got some little areas where the clay has shown through, the slip and all that. And so I'm just using my brush to get in there and kind of smooth those lines out. Give us a nice clean slate to work with. I'm gonna trim this down so it blends a little bit more. Actually, I'm gonna use a tool like this. This just has a sharper edge, but any tool like this will suffice for me. I'm just going with this one. And I like the idea of having this little chin part flush, so I'm going to actually trim off some of this clay, some of my base. Okay, so that's what I've got right now. And to get more curvature in this line, I'm going to use my little brush tool and my fingers to push. Now I'm going to move on to the next step. I've got my little pieces here. Now I'm going to figure out how I'd like to compose the face. I'm thinking that I want this eye, instead of horizontal, I think I want to put it vertically. Then I've got my little eyelashes. I'm thinking I want it just a little away from the eye. So I'm thinking this is how I would like to stick that on. And I've got these little pieces of hair here I've created. I think I'm gonna put one there and then the other like that. And I'm thinking the mouth will go something like this. A little accent for our nose. And then another eye. So this is what I'm thinking the composition of my piece is going to be. And then I'll trim stuff down as I feel necessary. So right now I'm going to focus on getting these pieces stuck onto the clay. So let's start with the mouth. I'm going to do the scoring technique I've shown you. I wet this piece instead of that, but I'm just gonna Got a tiny bit of water there just because this is a thin piece and I want to make sure it adheres really well. And so I've got this little mouth part here. Push it into place. Now we're going to do the top half. I'm going to wet it just because this piece is a smaller piece, and since I pre-cut them, they got a little dry. So, which it getting a little dry is actually a pretty cool thing because it's helping hold its shape better. It's in a state that's called leather hard, which means it's hard to the point where it can't be formed anymore, but it's not hard to the point where it can't be used anymore. When a piece of clay gets bone dry, that's when it's not able to adhere to anything else. Actually, I'm gonna add a little more water. Get that gooey. Now we're gonna stick this on. Now we've got our mouth on. I'm gonna use my paintbrush just to clean up the excess slip that's coming out from the sides. Okay, now I'm gonna stick on our little accent for the nose. I think it's gonna go right in here. I want the nose to be a little pointier on my silhouette that I've created. And like I said, these pieces are a little more dry because I pre-cut them. I'm pushing it into place. Beautiful. Now I'm gonna stick this eye on. Where I'd like to stick it. Went ahead and pushed that down. Now I've just got these pieces left that I need to adhere to each other. I think I'm gonna move this eye a little. I think there. Let's get these little guys stuck on too. I'm pushing this area down because I'm sticking this other piece of hair on top of it, and it'll just be a little more flush if I do that. Actually, I'm gonna make these scoring lines go a little further out. Right now, I'm just gonna quickly go through with my paintbrush and kind of clean up these excess lines. I'm actually gonna use a smaller brush. Just to get into the tighter spots. I'm just gonna do that to this side as well, since I just stuck this little eye on. Now I just need to stick these eyelashes on. I'm going to get my scoring tool, and I wanted it a little further away from the eye. I'm just gonna do this kind of like fan outside of the eye. Do it longer in some bits to kind of get all of this stuff on. I'm gonna wet these a little more since they are very fragile and a little dry. Oopsie. Well, now it's very wet, but that's okay. We can still use it. Now we're just gonna do the same with this piece. Probably not try to throw it in there though. I'm gonna try and keep this outside of the water. Oops, broke that, but that's okay. I'm gonna place this here. And I'm gonna do the same for this piece. Now to join these little pieces, I'm just gonna score on top. Noticing I have a little crack here, so I'm just gonna get that a little wet, score it a bit, and then smooth it out. Okay, last but not least, we're just gonna put the little iris on there. I'll wet it with my finger. Add a little water. Now we're just going to do our little finishing touches to help complete this piece. So right now I'm just going over with my sponge around the edge to help smooth out these lines. I'm mostly just doing it around the edge of my piece. And now I'm going to use anything I can to do my details. So I'm thinking I want to do maybe some dots on this side and keep this side smooth. So I'll just start by using the back of this paintbrush to now create some designs and dimension. It doesn't matter where I'm putting them, I'm just kind of putting them anywhere they fit in. Okay. Then I'm thinking I'll do some finer dots in this little bit of hair. Maybe do some lines on this piece. Do a crosshatch. Just need to clean up that little eye a little bit. I'm going to add some lines to this one. Going back to this eye, making it an eye. We've got this. I'll use a smaller dot. Maybe I'll add some teeth. You know what, I don't like those lines on there, so I'm gonna redo them. I'm just adding a little bit of water with my finger. And I think I'll do the same as I did on the hair. Some cross-hatching lines. And now, last but not least, I'm going to use some of my scrap clay to create a kickstand so that this can be propped up. I'm cutting it much larger than I actually need, but I'd like to attach it like that. So then this can stand and you can enjoy it. And so I'm going to score this and attach it to here. You know what? Notice that this goes much higher, so I'm going to score up here. Add a teensy bit of water. Just gonna use the scoring tool to make sure this is all attached. And then I'm just gonna use my brush and go over it. Make it all one piece. I noticed that I just have this going over the edge a little bit, so I'm just gonna cut off the extra bit of clay that's in my way. And we're all set. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day.